from your own industry perspective, let's look at 2017. How do you expect 2017 to pan out? You know, do we expect to see more of the same risks? Do we expect to see new risks? Or if you want to put it in more definitive terms, the threats that will raise up their heads, you know, and what vulnerabilities or weaknesses will impact on those threats to actualize risks? What do you see happening in 2017?
I don't think we will see different threats. So long as the same underlying guiding principles exist, why would the outcome be different, right? So if I'm still going to believe, I mean, we're a very religious society, and our beliefs are so strong. And if I'm still going to continue to be believing that, tomorrow will be better, you know, or God will take care of it, why will anything change? Nothing will change. Let's not fool ourselves. Like Wale mentioned, I thought that was actually an interesting perspective, that we voted and wanted and desired change, and we have change and saying, oh, I don't want change anymore, or I wasn't ready for change, right? So I think as long as those same principles are the same, the threats will not become different. However, what may now be different will now be perhaps the risk that those threats represent to us. So whether, so in other, and I think really in terms of the likelihood, they pretty much remain the same. Perhaps what will be different will now be the impact they have on us. Because for example, you have this case of reverse export in cars, right? So the same threat exists, the same likelihood is still the same. However, in an attempt to mitigate the impact and have an influence on what that risk represents to this individual, he now exports cars the other way. I have some friends who are in the honey business, right, who are actually doing something very similar, where we import so much honey into this country, over $100 million US worth of honey. So what they are trying to do is say, look, let's form cooperatives of beekeepers, because we actually have enough honey in the country. The problem is that it's fragmented, right? But if we can now consolidate that honey supply together, we can now again, you know, similar to the car, begin to actually export that. So I think that what I expect to see in 2017 is just better mitigation or better response to the impact that those same threats, you know, represent to the country.
How can that be done?
Okay, so I think one way that for me that really stands out is through a lot more public-private partnerships, and more specifically concessions. You know, so when I hear about we don't have enough direct foreign investments, I'm not exactly sure that foreign investments are what made the UK or the US or Germany or any other country what they were, and neither am I sure that even in the case of Nigeria, I can think of several big billion-dollar projects right now that some individuals themselves want to fund, and where we have foreign investors who are literally falling over themselves to want to make those investments. So I do think that a lot more concessions given, and these are agreements where between agencies of government and private entities, you agree that the private entity makes the investment, the cash investment, and in exchange, the government provides the regulatory environment, provides a period of time for which you can actually operate that business and recoup your money back. So I think concessions are one way that that will happen. Another way I think I also see this happening is through a lot more regional integration. So about mid this year, I think or thereabout, at NIBSS, we actually had a strategy session. And in that session, we weren't discussing about payments, right, or financial services. Rather, we were looking at the various sector contribution to GDP and trying to understand what threats, what problems, what challenges do we see in those sectors, and what opportunities do we think we can see out of them. And now try to say, well, how can NIBSS play in this space, whether it's payment or non-payment? And one thing that came out of every group we had was that, and you kind of alluded to that earlier, in East Africa, there's a lot more regional integration. There's a lot more appreciation even for African integration. Many Africans, many Nigerians have not seen Benin Republic. True. And when I told colleagues about taking a drive across ECOWAS, it was like, huh? ECOWAS? Where is that, first of all? And why were you doing that and not traveling to, you know, back to America or to London or to Dubai? So we see that with a lot more regional integration, the kind of, not to suggest that East African countries are a lot more stable or doing better than we are here in West Africa, But we do find that because of that regional integration, you have a country like Rwanda, very tiny, almost no natural resources. In fact, they can't boast, as we do here in Nigeria, boast of natural resources, but are already targeted. Yeah. In fact, in many rankings globally, already superseding and taking over Nigeria. In ICT, financial services, you can open a company in Rwanda in 2 days, or sorry, in 2 hours. In Nigeria, it's about 48 days or thereabout. So I think that another way that will happen here, which actually we at NIBSS are also looking at doing, is having a lot more regional integration. And how that plays out is saying that, for example, we now have instant payments here in Nigeria. Some other Western African countries don't yet have that. It's not even in the US yet. In the UK, they're thinking about faster payments. But what we can do here is to say, hey, look, let's go and work with Ghana, with Benin Republic, with Ivory Coast, and help transfer that knowledge we've developed here in Nigeria on how we've made that possible and how we manage those threats to them. And through that kind of regional integration, what we expect to see will be that although the same threats, at least in transfers and services may exist, we may now be able to reduce the impacts more. If we have more regional integration in payments, some of our currency exchanges that are settled in foreign currency, in US dollars, can now be settled locally. And that would also reduce, so my point is that I think through something like that, whereas you do not eliminate the issue around FX, you reduce the impact to our country.
Thank you, thank you. So, I think this is a very important point. Borders, our boundaries, for those of us who may just be operating in Nigeria, may not be Nigeria anymore. We need to look beyond Nigeria. We need to look at what the opportunity in the continent offers and how we can play. The other interesting point he made was about PPP. So, in Nigeria, we're great about knowing what government is not doing well. We're excellent about those things. We can analyze to death. Is there an opportunity there to put together a case and go to the government, whether it's at local or state or federal level, to say, can we partner to resolve this? We think that we have the competencies. We think that we have the expertise to be able to address this particular problem. And we can come up with a model that will be win-win, because let's face it, government is broke, right? So anything, any model that can help them to develop. I think this budget of recovery and growth is focused on infrastructure. But how is that infrastructure then going to be funded? And whilst it's focused on infrastructure, and some of you are thinking, well, I'm not in infrastructure. The point is, it cannot only be infrastructure. Other parts of the economy must also grow. So if you have a value proposition that is, is strong, is valid, let's go ahead and let's put it together and let's try and make it work. And this might be the time for some of you who may not have explored Africa to explore Africa. You'll be amazed at what you find. I think it's interesting that I think everybody on this panel has, well, NIBSS is in that process, but I think all the other players have at least 1 or 2 or 3 businesses that are outside Nigeria. Am I correct? So they've already made that move. They've already made that shift, and we ourselves have already done that. In Accra, East Africa, and it's something to consider, because I think one of the key things that we have in Nigeria. You said we have a skills shortage, but you also said, those of us in this room are sort of like the top end of it. How about taking those skills out to other countries and leveraging on them, and using them to create value? So, Femi's point about, explore Nigeria, we take it one step further and we say, explore Africa.